not getting any younger. I think Okongwu will be in the starting lineup sooner rather than later, just because just Capella was. We'll see. 82 games of Capella. I'll believe it when I see it in the year 2022, 2023. Last one, Rudy Gobert to Minnesota. The fit, not about the picks, not about any of the other stuff. Him next to Towns, the Twin Tower approach, based on what you've seen from Chris Finch as a head coach, how it affects potentially Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell, even maybe Jaden McDaniels. Like, how does this work for you?
You know, it's funny because someone else asked me a few days ago about how Chris Finch has been on some staffs that have used two bigs before. So I got to go dig through that footage. Is anyone going to want to watch this video if I do it on Rudy and Minnie?
I'll watch it, yeah.
All right, because I'm like getting weird spidey.
Well, no, Twin Towers, it's just weird because like we don't see this in the NBA anymore. Like this kind of stuff is different. So I think people want to know.
Yeah, I mean, to this extent, we are seeing some traditional, like we see Boston did it, you know, if you want to consider Horford and
well, I'm saying like in their prime. Horford's not in his prime. And like Robert Williams is not a star. This is like two all-stars. Yeah. Like this is a different type of thing.
And like I've never been the biggest fan of Rudy. You know, he's a great teammate. He's been very effective and certainly deserved to win all those awards in the defensive end. But, you know, obviously with the offensive skill deficit he has, it makes it hard. And whether or not you can say he gets played off the court or not, because you can probably look at the numbers of the minutes he's playing, and they don't really go down much in the playoffs, but he's just less effective. The teams get better, and suddenly, like, what he does defensively isn't as effective, whether he's getting blown by and they're getting the ball at the rim in, or they're shooting over him from the perimeter. So I had said to the Jazz fans or just anybody listening, you know, they probably should have broken up Gobert and Donovan Mitchell like 3 years ago. Because in my mind, it was not going to happen if they wanted the title. So we talked about teams that get stuck in the middle, or they're playing, you know, they're always like the third in the conference, fourth, and they're winning, and it's a competitive product, and, you know, the fans are happy. That might be okay. I was assuming that Jazz fans wanted to get to the NBA Finals and win. And based on what I had seen for those years before, like up until like 3 years ago, I'm like, this is not going to happen with this pairing. And so now you move Gobert to Minnesota, and he's going to play alongside Cat, who, in my mind, the reason why he was so effective on offense is because he was playing the five, going up against other fives. Well, now he's going to go up against fours who are quicker and can take away some of the things he gets in the perimeter and maybe not let him get to the basket as easy on the drives. So how does that work? And then where was Rudy while Cat's trying to go to work? Because he tends to just sort of gum up the works and be in the way on the post or the weak side, you know, dunker spot. So it's a troubling thing where the one thing I could say, though, is that, you know, the best 3-point shots are the ones that come off of offensive rebounds. So why wouldn't you want to maybe put in a lineup where you can get more offensive rebounds and then ipso facto get more threes? This would be an example of that, especially because when one of them can shoot threes like Cat can, well, then, you know, you don't have to have them both always go into the boards or the offensive rebounds, because then he could be another guy to receive that pass right away in the scramble to get an open three. So that could very well be part of what they're thinking about. And then, you know, the other thing, I guess, obviously would be they needed to shore up the defense. Cat defensively as a center just isn't going to do it, and they weren't going to like bench him. And so, you know, the next best thing is, okay, let's bring in the best defender we could find that's available. That would be Rudy Gobert. So that makes a little bit more sense to me. And then the third piece of the puzzle would be, is Anthony Edwards going to ascend to MVP status like we all think he's going to, right? At some point he will. It looks pretty clear to me he's going to be that Michael Jordan.
He's 20.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. He was 20 doing that last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's only a matter of time. And if it's this year, and Cat's okay with that, if he is, where he's like, okay, you're the man, I'm going to be the second guy, as long as he's okay, and I think he would be. Cat seems to be a really like sort of reflective guy and sensitive to teammates. So I would think he would recognize that pretty quickly and say, no, you could be the man. I mean, here's the problem: Anthony Edwards can be prone to taking terrible shots, and big men and specifically hate that, right? Yeah. They're getting beat up all the time. They're running back down. They get to the post finally, and they turn around, and they're watching the ball go over their head because he threw up a bad.
Well, he'll be in the corner now because Gobert's right there, so he doesn't have to take as much punishment. So when he's running down the court, he'll just hide out in the corner or something.
Yeah. Although I was thinking though, if he's going to have guys like fours playing him more, then maybe he will go down the post because they'll be smaller home advantage. I don't know. Again, it's kind of up in the air how they want to do it. They have options, which is always the more important than having no options. So, but there is a version, yes, where if Anthony Edwards kind of really assumes that 28, 29 point a game person where he's shooting 35% from three, he's getting his 4 or 5 assists a game, like, in that role, then that makes them so good, I think, because Cat is that good offensively that they're going to be in the mix. And then, Rudy can plug it in. But I just feel like there's something about Rudy that tends to put a ceiling on teams. And so, we'll see. I'm a little bit, bearish on them. But I will say it's possible after 20 games we're like, whoa, they're 15-5 and they're making this thing work and they're causing all sorts of problems. That could happen, or it could be 10-10 and just a struggle.
If they're not in the top 4 in the West come playoff time, I would be pretty surprised. I think this team is built for the regular season and gobbling up the wins. I would be pretty surprised. I'm also just curious, where does the D'Angelo Russell thing go? Because I don't know. I don't know if he's on this team come playoff time next year.
I like him too. I do. I know he's had his issues and there's all sorts of maturity thing, whatever. But I like him. I've always liked the way he plays. It's very difficult to guard him, because he's so shifty. Just don't know what he's going to do, and he's very non-traditional the way he attacks.
Yeah.
It definitely became a problem because they were benching him more and they were finding success while he wasn't on the court. And that clearly would make anybody upset who's used to getting, much more regular minutes. And then that could cause a problem. And we've seen that happen oftentimes. Where did they finish last year? They finished
7th, right?
7th, yeah. As in the playoff round, play-in round. So they won 46 games, which is good. Like the question,
they should win 50 plus. I would think it's a huge failure if they don't win 50 plus games next year.
Yeah. And I get that whole thing. Like Rudy in the regular season is a guy who gives you a nice boost. So that's reasonable. I don't think it's unreasonable to say they can get to 50, and 50 wins gets you just below the 4th seed if it were last year, but you're right in that mix. So I can see that. So that's fair. And then the question then becomes matchups, like who are you going to play?
Right.
And I'm going to get stuck against Steph in the first round, and then that's going to be rough because then Rudy gets played off the floor, whatever you want to call that. That's tough.
But then who does Golden State throw at Anthony Edwards if Anthony Edwards makes that leap? They're going to have their own mismatch thing where it's like, who are they going to throw at Anthony Edwards?
But I don't know. That's the
Clay's not that guy anymore.
He's not, but Wiggins is, and
that's true.
They can throw. I mean, Kuminga, has shown spurts for playing before. It seems like they have guys, and Clay. He's not Clay anymore, but he's still smart and he can still, provide them some defensive awareness there. So I'm not so sure that they'd be that overly concerned about it. They'd probably be more concerned about being too small and getting.
Yeah, they're getting killed in the boards in that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's probably what I mentioned earlier. That's probably what they're going for. Is they're going to crash the boards, sacrifice potential fast breaks behind them if they don't get it in exchange for putbacks and kickouts for threes on those offensive rebounds. I'm convinced that there is a team, and maybe this is going to be it, who can do this. They can go back to the traditional bigs. Rudy is the one guy that makes me kind of wonder, but even his passing, his hands, they're not great. He gets the ball knocked out of his hands a lot of the time. But there is a team. If it's not this one, there will be a team, I think, at some point sooner than later that will play two traditional bigs, hammer the offensive rebounds, and win that way, and maybe shift the dynamic because everyone's so afraid of that now. They all want to get back on defense. They'll shift that again, and we'll see some more teams going for offensive boards.
It kind of reminds me of the Brandon Roy, Andre Miller, LMA, and Greg Oden team. That's what it kind of reminds me of. The best case Greg Oden is the defensive anchor who you're like, I don't know how this will work come playoff time, and will he get played off the floor? That's your Gobert. Then you have LMA, obviously, the star with him and Cat, and it was big lineup. It was big, it was long, but then you had the star in Roy if he had stayed healthy. But that was the best case scenario. That's who I thought about when I was looking at this roster and how they might be playing next year.
My memory though of Oden was he's better offensively than Rudy is.
It's just different though. Oden was more hook shot stuff, and Rudy's just he's not posting. He's just gobbling up the lobs and stuff like that. They're just different. But I don't know. I mean, he if Greg Oden if he was healthy, I think his career probably would have been best case scenario, kind of what they got out of Rudy, right? I think that's kind of what you would have wanted if you're Portland. Maybe not have a number 1 overall pick, but Rudy's had a really great career, especially at his value and where he.
Oden almost feels more like What's it, Ayton? I mean, he's not as big as Ayton. Like that is the kind of game because Odin, unless I'm remembering wrong, he had a little bit of a jumper too. I don't know if he could dribble, but he could pass a little bit. Like he could be a cog in an offensive machine versus Rudy just is lost a lot of times. He can rim run or he can pull. But like you just get nervous when he gets the ball because he's the ball's gonna slip out. He's got a really weird release. He doesn't really have much of a hook shot. It's weird because he plays a little bit better offensively on the team France, but it's just a different game. The FIBA international game when it's playing for national teams are just different. The rules are different a little bit. Or defensively, what you can do is different. So that's probably the biggest reason why. But like he's just never been able to really put it together. So, but that's interesting. We'll have to see. I mean, there's one of the more open seasons going into it where there's not a lot of definitive answers for a lot of people.
Well, in here you said something that I hadn't considered. Like, so is that so? Offensive threes off offensive rebounds is the best 3-point shot. Why is that?
So the ball generally is being kicked out from the basket area. So the receiver, first of all, it's a catch and shoot.
Yeah.
Second of all, you're already relying on the basket because the ball is coming from that direction, which is second best one is a driving kick for that reason too. Well,
that's what I was thinking. I thought it would be driving kick. Yeah.
Well, driving kick is also great because the ball is coming from the basket area generally, but not always. But that your man has probably had to rotate, so you're getting more that way. But with a offensive rebound, it's a scramble. So that a lot of times is like really wide open because your defender is completely gone or they went to the rebound or whatever. They're not anywhere near you. But the biggest reason I believe is that because you're already aligned to the basket on the catch, and you should they're usually wide open. So that's the key. Now, again, does it work if you get more? Are they always going to be that way? Like, yeah, I think so. Like sometimes you might not be able to extrapolate that out in a linear fashion, but with this particular stat, I don't see why they wouldn't continue to do that because the defense is always in scramble mode. The ball's always coming from the basket area. And as long as you make the right decision, which is if you have a choice, who's out there to pass it to, you only get one pass generally, right? Because the defense will get back after that. You got to make sure you're passing to, the good shooter versus the bad shooter. And if you can do that well enough, then you should be able to capitalize on that.
College, it seems like they never find the right shooter in that scenario.
Listen, college coaching, a lot of the places is really frustrating for me, and it's stifling, and that's what they're there for. It's like almost like they just want to have so much control that the players suffer. I've had players cry on my shoulder hearing what coaches have been doing to them, just shooting wise, how they're trying to teach it. It's really, really bad. There are outliers, and at different levels, but like the Jay Wrights over in Villanova, like he's doing terrific stuff, developing, individual skills, but a lot of it. And before he left in Michigan, Beeline has a shooting system that I don't know if he likes to publicize it too much, but what he's doing is modern and correct and really helpful for a lot of guys. But when you have guys who are my age or older, and they're teaching the things that we learned about shooting in the 80s, it's like you're just teaching them how to miss. It's really, really, really frustrating. So hopefully it'll start to kind of seep in more. We'll get more. I mean, I'm training a couple of guys right now in high school, and I'm doing all the cutting edge stuff with them. And it's like, it really is remarkable how much it unlocks. And it's everything that I never would have done, or I never would have learned when I was their age in high school. And it really is powerful. It's amazing. So hopefully that'll get out. I suppose that's what I'm here for, but we'll keep teaching and hopefully the college guys will get better and better in college. So you don't have any more of these, 50 to 49 games like they have sometimes.
So there you have it. Coach Nick saying buy Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Saddiq Bey stock. If you have not already done so, buy the shooter stock in Detroit. They're in good hands.
Oh yeah. I like Cade. I like what they're doing there. Yeah. You don't forget Saddiq Bey.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Saddiq Bey too. Yeah. So we'll see, because I think he has, what is his title in Detroit? It's like it's some kind of senior basketball ops job Beeline has in Detroit, and I forgot.
I missed that sense. Oh, is that right?
That's what I was saying. Yeah, like that's why I'm saying to buy those stock, because like he's big. In that. Yeah.
If they let him put the sneakers on and get down on the court with the guy.
I imagine he's involved some way. I'm imagining he's doing some player development stuff.
I did not know that. That's big because Casey is a dinosaur, and not that he would be teaching shooting anyway, but like Rick Carlisle, for instance, when Dallas they were teaching some ridiculous stuff, and they had to do it because I'm assuming it was Carlisle at the head of that one, telling them that. I'm sure it's because Carlisle played, and he played in an era where the 2-motion shot and like they didn't have the 3-point line and all these different things, and he somehow like was clinging to that, I guess. And so you have to be careful. That could be really good or really bad. And if Beilein's there, then I would assume the Pistons will shoot better this year.
His exact title is Senior Player Development Advisor for the Pistons. Yeah.
Well, then, so that to me, then whoever the development coach is, he's having meetings. He's probably looking at home and he's going over stuff and he's suggesting things. And, I'd imagine being a senior or whatever, they better listen to him. So that's good.
Senior's always a good thing to have in your title. It feels better.